On today's Friday Farm Report, I'll be doing a status update on the four top bats in the Mets farm system, the two at the big league level with Brett Baty and Francisco Alvarez, and the two in AAA with Mark Vientos and Ronny Mauricio, and discussing what their roles will be with this club in the second half.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, for those of you who listened to yesterday's show, you know I'm recording this right after that, right? I said it now it's like an hour ago as I was wrapping up the last show, going into this one. I'm flying out to see some family this weekend. I won't be able to record after Thursday night's game, so I wanted to give you a Friday Farm Report where we focus in on the Mets' big four, okay? The guys that coming into this season, you had big expectations for. Two of them starring at the big league level, a couple that are still on the horizon. We've seen Mark Vientos this year, but it didn't perform well, could be back at some point. And Ronny Mauricio is still that wild card you don't know if you're going to see or not. But I'd be remiss if I didn't spend a little more time on Alvarez, although if you just listened to Thursday's show, if you listened to it yesterday, I just spent a lot of time on him because what he's done is special. And the fact that he's got 15 home runs before the All-Star break, it is as good of an offensive season the Mets have gotten from a catcher in a very long time. There was a Wilson Ramos year where he put up a lot of RBIs, but I could poke some holes into that. Look at the bases loaded stats, Wilson Ramos that year, and all the singles that drove in runs for him. He was good, but it was a mirage of a season. And then you had a Paul LeDuc year at one point, a Travis d'Arnaud year, but Francisco Alvarez, there's the promise of the future married with an incredible present, and the defense he's giving you, plus that bat that can just change games for you, the home runs, it is so special. And it's clear that the Mets are going to be a serious contender this year. It's going to take Francisco Alvarez continuing to have these stretches where he can carry your lineup for a series. And I think that's the good position he's in right now is it's still on the veterans, right? It's still on Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor and Jeff McNeil and Tommy Pham now and Starling Marte, these guys to be the consistent forces. But you have a guy in Francisco Alvarez that can ignite in an instant and straight up win you a series, which is what he just did in Arizona. I haven't even gotten the chance to enjoy this final game where maybe, who knows, the Mets complete a sweep. And who knows if Alvarez is a key contributor and starts all three games. I'm still not privy to that info. But those of you listening are. So we'll see if Alvarez continues to add to his intrigue. But he's been so good. And what's funny is coming into the season, I expected it to be Brett Baty doing what Alvarez has done. Alvarez is a guy that had a hole in his swing, and that was high heat. And he's addressed that, and he has a great approach to the plate, and he has grown leaps and bounds, both offensively and defensively, in his short time in the big leagues. Brett Baty has regressed, and it's frustrating to see. There is some signs of a breakout. Okay, if you look at his stats in a 16-game pocket starting on June 13th, carrying through July 4th. Brett Baty hitting 304, 328 on base, 393 slug, 103 win runs created plus. That is WRC plus, measuring hitters on a league average 100. It's been 3% better than your league average hitter. Still striking out a ton, but he's getting a lot of hits. Hits in 13 of his last 17 games. He needs to do more to be the type of impact player we thought he was going to be. And he has, in a lot of ways, regressed back to the guy from 2021 that hit the ball on the ground a ton. And if that guy was to play at the big league level, this is what you'd expect, as someone who's not really driving the ball with authority, not finding gaps, not hitting for extra bases, but a guy that can still hit for a decent average and get on base at a good clip. And obviously a 249 average, or actually what's it after this game where he went 1 for 3. Um, the most recent average is 250, 319 on base, his OPS at 682. I think there's some signs that he's breaking out a little bit, but I think Brett Baty, more than a lot of guys on this team, needs the All-Star break, needs a moment to sit back and reflect on where he is, to understand that, hey, you're the starting third baseman of the New York Mets. They've given you that leash, that clear runway. They traded Eduardo Escobar. This is his job to lose, and he hasn't lost it yet. And obviously, things can change. You could see Ronny Mauricio enter into the fold, which we'll discuss in the next segment. You could see the Mets make a move at the deadline for a third baseman. They just don't think he's ready. But I think what Brett Baty has shown, for one, is the glove has been good, and that's been key. But two, there's still been enough moments where you think, okay, he can turn that corner. I think if he takes a minute this All-Star break to reflect on how far he's come and the opportunity he has in the second half of this year, I think you're going to see a better version of Brett Baty as he continues to get acclimated. And once he can start to drive the ball for extra bases, especially if he's hitting out of like the 9 hole and the pressure really is off. And I think winning is going to help that, because the Mets have been losing, and then here you are, this rookie that's maybe trying to do too much. So if everyone else starts to play better around him, I still think the best is yet to come for Brett Baty. I don't know, similar to like Alvarez, I don't know if he's going to hit his potential and his ceiling this year. It's probably not the case, but you don't need him to. What you need him to be is a slightly above average hitter who's giving you good defense, who can turn some series for you the way Alvarez has. I think Beatty has that in him. And the question is there a third rookie that can give that kind of impact to the Mets this year? Because it still seems like this is a team that's a bat short. I want to discuss those two guys in AAA in just a minute. Before we do, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. If you've ever been in the situation where you're stressing out trying to find tickets to the game, well, Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you, with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, so you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you're going to have. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest-growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of receipts before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps, you're all set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email, and you can snag tickets without the stress using Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. New York Mets play the San Diego Padres at 9:40 p.m. Eastern Time Friday night. Catch every pitch. Mets hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Mets. Now, there's 2 prospects in AAA that the Mets have with Mark Vientos and Ronny Mauricio that could be impact bats this year. We've seen a cup of coffee or 2 cups of coffee now for Vientos, and they haven't gone well. He is now currently a career 173 hitter over 90 plate appearances, 244 on base, 259 slug, 47 WRC plus, 53% worse than your league average hitter. And it's not gone well for Mark Vientos. I don't think that he's been put in a good position to succeed. And we'll see. We'll see how he hits in AAA. It hasn't been great since he's been back. Couple home runs, but just hasn't been the guy that he was earlier in the season. The overall stats in AAA have been great. 314 hitter, 395 on base, 644 slug with 16 homers. But the Mets just went to grab another bat in the minors, and it was DJ Stewart, not him. And I don't know if Mark Vientos is back this year. I don't know if Mark Vientos is dangled at the deadline. I'm a little bit lost as far as Vientos' place, and I feel like he's gotten a raw deal because Daniel Vogelbach certainly hasn't done anything lately to have continued to grab that job. He had a nice 4 or 5 game stretch after a mental health break, And he's been back to who he was before that. You have DJ Stewart up right now. Maybe he's the answer, but likely not even. So it's how do you fill that DH spot? And I still believe if you gave him run and opportunity, it could be Vientos. I also just don't know. I don't know if he's going to be put in a position where he can see it or where he can have confidence playing for the Mets. And that could eventually lead him to being a good player for another team. Whether that's traded at this deadline or in the offseason or at a future, time. We'll see. Ronny Mauricio is intriguing because he carries himself similar to Alvarez, where he feels like a star. And you look at his numbers so far in AAA, and in some respects they jump out, in some respects they don't. 303 hitter, that's really good. 349 on base, that's good. 508 slug, also good. Has 12 home runs. He's been a doubles machine, 25 doubles AAA this year. That is one away from his season total in AA last year over 123 games. So that's been a welcome sign. The strikeouts have been cut significantly. He's down to 16.4% of the season. Last year in AA, it was 23.1%. The year before that, he was at 24% in high A. So that strikeout rate has really been slashed this year. And yet, with all that said, his win runs created plus is 109. So he's only been 9% better than your league average hitter in that Eastern League in AAA. There's a lot of promise there. And I still believe he could be an impact player as soon as this season. But I'm not necessarily counting on it. And that leads me to the big kind of philosophical question of the show. Do the Mets have enough, or do they still have to grab a bat at the deadline if they're in the mix? I think this is your time to watch Vogelback, to watch Stewart, to watch Canna even, and to see if the veterans can carry you. If they don't, you have to gauge the market, but there's not a lot on the market. So then how do you cobble this together? Ultimately, I think the best course of action might be Vientos gets hot down the stretch in July. And let's just say DJ Stewart holds his own and Daniel Vogelback continues to struggle. Maybe you get to a point where you finally DFA Vogelback, open a runway for Mark Vientos as the everyday DH with JD Stewart as a backup and with Mark Canna able to fill in as well. And you just cobble it together and see. Ronny Mauricio brings value with the fact that he has a position compared to Vientos. But if Tommy Pham's going to be your starting left fielder, if you're going to keep running Marte out there every day for the most part, Brandon Nimmo's not getting taken out of the lineup every day. Same goes with Lindor, Alonso, and McNeil, regardless of the season McNeil's having. And Baty's basically trending and kind of in that same conversation, as is Alvarez. So where's the playing time? It's at DH, and I don't know if that's where you want Ronny Mauricio. Now, if the bat's there and maybe it makes sense, you figure it out. You do. But he's also a guy that, he hasn't done enough, despite all the doubles, despite the high average in the on base. He still hasn't quite put up the type of gaudy stats that make you say, oh, he's ready for big league pitching. He's still a guy that could be exposed to big league pitching, in my opinion. And we'll see. We'll see when he gets that opportunity. I just don't know if he's going to get enough requisite playing time. And the same goes with Mark Vientos to be an impact player. But I think if Vientos can hit over the next couple of weeks, he at least has taken enough lumps at the big league level that maybe third time's a charm. Ultimately, I think the amount of talent that the Mets have on this roster, the 40-man, with their lineup, with the way fans are playing and everything else, I think that it's not wise to buy bats at this deadline with prospect capital. If you can get a player, let's just say you decide, you know what, we're going to take on Charlie Blackmon's salary. He's going to be our DH. Like, that could work. That's the type of move the Mets could make. But if it's anything for prospects, I think the Mets are best off staying internal and trusting that one of the veterans or Mauricio or Vientos can solidify that DH spot. Regardless, that's all for our farm report. I do want to touch briefly on the weekend series against the Padres. We're going to get to that in a minute. First, though, another word from our sponsors. The New York Mets play the San Diego Padres at 9:40 p.m. Eastern Time Friday night. Chevy pitched the Mets' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Mets. Now, again, I still don't know the conclusion of the series the Diamondbacks that record here. Carrasco versus Ryan Nelson. Who knows how that went for the Mets? Hopefully, they kept the winning streak alive and they have a chance to win out when it comes to the first half and win those final 8 games and be 2 games under 500 as you go to the break and be a lot closer in the mix. And you're playing a team in the Padres that you're in direct competition with in that wild card race. This is a big, big series for the Mets. Bottom line, you just want to win it, right? And they've already won the Diamondback series. They won the Giants series. 2 teams theoretically in the same NL playoff hunt, although the Diamondbacks are currently the first place team, but you can see the Dodgers running them down pretty easily. And then it becomes the D-backs in that mix as well. These are teams you want to beat because you also have tiebreakers in mind too. So this is going to be a fascinating series. Last year, the Mets played the Padres. I think it was the first series out of the break, and it was a very big kind of measuring stick series. And I feel like you're in the same boat here, where it's 2 teams that have just flatly failed to meet expectations this year, who are trying to get back in the hunt. Game 1's Justin Verlander versus Yu Darvish. Darvish has not had a good season. He's at a 4.84 ERA. Verlander sitting at a 3.66. This will be his last start of the first half. Can he put up a big performance and get the Mets off to a good start? I think that's imperative if you want to take game 1, and especially when you look at the matchup in game 2, because it's David Peterson right now. We'll see if Jose Quintana enters this mix. I haven't checked on if he's made another rehab start. I guess I'll do that right now. So it looks like he will make one more minor league start as I'm looking at. So you'll see Quintana in the second half, which means it's one more start for David Peterson. He's going up against a Padres lineup that has some right-handed bats. You fear Machado, Tatis, Cronenworth even. Cronenworth's a righty, right? I believe so. Make sure I'm not completely off base with that one. No, bats left. Well, throws right. Regardless, it's a lot of questions that we have right now as it relates to David Peterson and what he's going to be in any given start. And the Mets clearly don't trust him. It's only let him go 4 innings his last time out. He's going up against Blake Snell, who has been red hot, pitching for a contract. You don't love the Mets' chances in game 2, but what you do like about this series is you have Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer bookending it, and that's why it was so important for the Mets to start Scherzer in game 1 of the series against the D-backs. He got extra rest for Senga, and that seemed to help. He got you a win. You're 2-0 in this West Coast trip, and you have Verlander and Scherzer pitching 2 of the final 3 games. So the chances that I record here at 2 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, the chances of winning these last 2 series feels pretty strong with that type of pitching able to close things out. I would love to see the Mets just reel off nothing but wins because I've said it before and I'll say it one last time for the week here. They're going to have to go on a couple of these winning streaks to get back in the mix. So to get one out of the way here, to win 8 in a row before the break, that would be such a big, big boost to climbing out of the massive hole they put themselves in. And I look at the starting pitching with Verlander and Scherzer, and I think they have the arms to do it. Let's just see if they get enough offense or the bullpen can hold up around them. But as far as I go here, that'll be all for Locked On Mets this week. I will have an audio-only show for you all on Monday as I'll be concluding my vacation and flying home Monday morning, and then I'll be back to your regularly scheduled program from Tuesday through Friday next week. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Follow me on Twitter, Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. And if you want to catch every pitch in the Mets hometown broadcast this weekend, You can do so with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Mets.